I had the boy ripped from my arms. I was crying. He was crying. He was 12 years old and screaming, "Mr. Robert, don't leave me." And there was nothing I could do. I just felt his small fingers slip from my shirt. I had only lost my wife 4 months earlier. This kid had given me my life back. He made me feel like I was still good for something, that I could still take care of someone, that my old hands could still protect. The social services people said a man my age couldn't take on a minor without papers, that it was illegal, that I could go to jail. My son, Ethan, was standing right there in the doorway, watching. And when I looked at him, pleading for help, he just looked away. If this story touches you inside, subscribe. Every day there is a true story that could be yours. Tell me where you are watching from. My name is Robert Baker Ledesma. I am 78 years old, and I was a blacksmith for 50 years in Houston, Texas. That Tuesday morning, I was in the kitchen with Peter. He was eating toast with butter, and I had made him mint tea because he said his stomach hurt. "Mr. Robert, you make the best tea in the world," he told me, and he laughed. He was 12 years old and had a shy laugh, as if he wasn't used to anyone treating him well. When the doorbell rang, we both looked at each other. "Who could that be?" he asked. I got up. "Stay here, son." But when I opened the door and saw the 2 women in blue vests with a folder under one arm, I knew they were here for him. I knew it before they even opened their mouths, and I felt a tightening in my chest. "Robert Baker Ledesma?" asked the older one. She had short, gray hair and a face that showed nothing. "Yes, that's me." She pulled out a paper with official stamps. "We are from Child Protective Services. We have a court order. We were informed that there is a minor living at this address without legal documentation." I opened my mouth to explain, but she held up her hand. "We need to take the boy now, sir." Peter appeared behind me, barefoot, still holding his cup of tea. "Mr. Robert?" His voice trembled. I put a hand on his shoulder. "Relax." But the woman had already walked into my house without permission. She crouched down in front of Peter. "What is your name?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me, searching for answers I didn't have. "His name is Peter," I said. "He's 12. I found him 3 months ago, sleeping under the Brooklyn Bridge. He had no one." The woman wrote something down without looking at me. "Are you a relative of the minor?" "No, but do you have documents for guardianship, adoption, or temporary custody?" "No, I just wanted to help him. He was on the street and—" "Then this is illegal, Mr. Baker?" She closed her folder. Just then my son Ethan arrived. I saw him through the window, getting out of his silver car in his gray suit with his leather briefcase. He walked up the steps and came in as if nothing was wrong. "Dad?" Child Protective Services called me. I came as soon as I found out. I looked at him. "Ethan, help me. Tell them Peter is fine with me." My son looked away. "Dad, they're just doing their job." The younger woman approached Peter. "Come on. We are going to take you to a safe place." Peter backed up. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with Mr. Robert." He started to cry. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't making a scene. He just cried quietly, with tears streaming down his face. I knelt down in front of him and grabbed his hands. They were small and cold. "Son, listen to me. This is temporary. I'm going to fix everything, I promise you." He shook his head. "No, Mr. Robert. The same thing always happens. People take care of me for a while, and then they leave me. Everyone leaves me." Those words crushed me. "I am not going to leave you," I told him. But the woman was already pulling him by the arm. "Sir, if you resist, we will call the police." I stood up. I looked at Ethan. Did you do this? Did you call Child Protective Services? My son didn't answer. He just stood there, with his hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. And then I knew. It was him. I raised Ethan alone after his mother left us when he was 8 years old. I paid for his entire college education. I helped him set up his law office. I loaned him money when he was just starting out. And now, he was standing there, letting them take the only child who had brought life back to me since I buried my wife 4 months ago. Peter screamed when they took him out the door. "Mr. Robert, don't leave me!" I tried to follow them, but Ethan grabbed me. "Dad, let him go." I pulled away. "Let go of me." But it was too late. They had already taken him. I stood in the doorway, watching the Child Protective Services car drive away down the street. Peter was looking out the back window, his face pressed against the glass, crying. I raised my hand as if to say, "I'll come back for you." But I don't know if he saw me. Ethan closed the door. "Dad, it was for the best. That boy is not your responsibility." I turned around and looked at him. "Best for who, Ethan?" He sighed. "For you? You are 78 years old. You can't be taking care of a kid." "I was taking good care of him," I said. "And what happens when you get sick, when you can't do it anymore? That is not your concern." My son tucked his briefcase under his arm. "I have to go. We'll talk later." And he left. He left me alone in my house, with Peter's tea still warm on the table. I walked into the kitchen. The food was a piece of toast with butter, half eaten. His school backpack was hanging on the chair back, his math notebook open to the page where he was doing homework. I sat down in my chair. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, looking at that empty chair, thinking about how Peter had come into my life. 3 months ago, I was walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, coming back from downtown. It was night, and it was cold. I saw a bundle covered with cardboard boxes. I went closer. It was a boy, thin, dirty, with bruises on his arms. I woke him up. He jumped up, scared. "Don't hit me," he said. "Easy, son," I told him. "No one is going to hit you. Are you hungry?" He looked at me with suspicion, but nodded. I took him to a diner near the bridge. I bought him a hot dog with soda. He ate it in 2 minutes. "Do you want another?" He nodded. I bought him 2 more. When he finished, he looked at me. "Thank you, sir." "Where's your family?" I asked him. He looked down. "My grandmother died a year ago. I lived with her. Then I went to a group home, but I ran away. They hit me there." I saw a scar on his arm. "Do you have somewhere to sleep tonight?" He shook his head. "Come with me. I have a free room at my house. You can sleep there tonight. Tomorrow we'll see what we do." He hesitated. "You won't do anything to me?" That question hurt me. "No, son. I am just going to give you a bed and some food. Nothing more." He accepted, and that night Peter slept in the room that used to be my daughter Mary's. The next day he asked me, "Can I stay 1 more day?" "Of course," I told him. 1 day passed, then another, then a week. Peter started helping me with the groceries. He kept me company. He asked me things. "Mr. Robert, did you work your whole life?" "Yes, son. I was a blacksmith." "And did you like it?" "I loved it. The hot iron, the hammer, the fire. It was hard, but it was beautiful." He would smile when I told him stories. One day he asked me, "Can I stay forever?" I was quiet. "Son, I wish, but for that I need papers. I need it to be legal, and can't you do that?" "I don't know how, son, but I'm going to find out." I never found out. And now they had taken him away from me, and I was alone again. I got up from the chair and went to Peter's room. His bed was made. He made it every morning without me having to ask. On the nightstand was the book I had given him last week. It was called Peter and the Wolf. He had asked me for it because he liked stories. I bought it for him at a bookstore downtown. When I gave it to him, his eyes shone. "Is this for me?" "Yes, son. It's yours." He hugged it to his chest. "No one ever gave me a book before." I sat on his bed. I picked up the book. I opened it. On the first page, Peter had written in pencil, "This book belongs to Peter Baker." He had used my last name. I hadn't told him to do it. He did it all on his own. And that's when I broke. That's when I cried. I cried harder than I had cried since I buried my wife 4 months earlier. I cried for that boy who had given me my life back. I cried for the injustice of them taking him away when all I had done was care for him. I cried because my own son had betrayed me. I cried because Peter was somewhere right now, alone, thinking I had abandoned him like everyone else. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have connections. I didn't have money. I only had these old blacksmith hands and a broken heart. But I wiped away the tears. I stood up. I walked out of Peter's room and told myself, I'm going to bring him back. I don't know how, but I'm going to bring him back. Because Peter was the only thing I had left. I woke up the next day at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Peter's crying face. I took a shower, shaved, and put on my blue shirt, the one my wife gave me years ago. I left the house at 7. The Child Protective Services office was downtown, near the main avenue in Boston. I took 2 buses. The trip was long. I kept thinking about what I was going to tell them. Peter is fine with me. He eats well, sleeps well, goes to school. He lacks nothing. I practiced the words in my head over and over. When I arrived, there was a long line at the entrance. People with folders, mothers with children, tired men. I stood at the end. I waited for 1 hour. No one offered me a seat. My legs started to hurt, but I didn't move. When it was finally my turn, a young woman attended to me behind a thick glass partition. She was eating yogurt and looking at her cell phone screen. "How can I help you?" she asked without looking up. "I'm here about a boy," I said. "His name is Peter. They took him from my house yesterday." She put down the yogurt and typed something on the computer. "Miner's last name?" I kept quiet. I didn't know Peter's last name. He had never told me. "I don't know his last name," I admitted. She gave me a strange look. "Are you a relative?" "No, but I was taking care of him. He was living with me." The girl sighed. "Sir, if you are not a direct relative, I cannot give you information. It's privacy policy." I leaned toward the glass. "But I just want to know if he's okay. If he needs anything." The girl shook her head. "I can't give you any details. If you want to start an adoption or guardianship process, you need to hire a lawyer." She handed me a piece of paper with a phone number printed on it. "You can call here for free legal advice." I took the paper. "And when can I see him?" "I don't know, sir. It depends on the process." "But is he okay? Is he scared? Did he cry?" The girl looked at me with a mix of pity and discomfort. "Sir, I can't tell you anything. I'm sorry." Next, a woman with a baby stood behind me. I didn't move. "Please, ma'am, just tell me if he's okay." A guard approached. "Sir, you need to leave." I walked out of there with the crumpled paper in my hand. Outside, I sat on a park bench and stared at the paper. I sat there for I don't know how long. I watched people go by. Everyone in a hurry, everyone with their lives. A man was selling ice cream. 2 children were playing on the swings. A couple was kissing under a tree. And I was just there, alone, not knowing what to do. I took out my cell phone and called the number on the paper. A recording answered. "You have reached the Free Legal Advice Center. Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Please leave your message after the tone." I hung up. It was 11 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. Why weren't they answering? I called again. Same recording. I left a message. "My name is Robert Baker. They took a child I was caring for. I need help. My phone number is..." I gave my number. I hung up. And I waited. No one called me back that day. I went back to my neighborhood in the afternoon. I was hungry, but I didn't want to eat. I needed to buy bread because I hadn't eaten anything all day. I went to Mr. John's corner store. Mr. John had been my friend for 30 years. When I had the blacksmith shop, he bought locks and tools from me. When his wife died, I went to the funeral. When his grandson was born, I gave him a cradle I made with my own hands. We were real friends. Or so I thought. I entered the store. Mr. John was behind the counter, organizing cigarettes. When he saw me, his face changed. "Robert?" His voice sounded strange. "Hi, John. Give me a pound of bread, please." He went to get the bread without saying anything. The silence was uncomfortable. When he came back with the bread, he put it on the counter, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. "That will be $2. I gave him the money. I grabbed the bread. I was about to leave, but I stopped. "John, is something wrong?" He scratched the back of his neck. He was quiet for a moment. Then he lowered his voice. "Robert, look, people are talking." I frowned. Talking about what? He looked toward the street, as if he didn't want anyone to hear him. "About the boy. That Child Protective Services took him. That there was something fishy." I felt like something had stabbed me in the stomach. "Something fishy?" "John, I was just taking care of him. The boy had no one." Mr. John raised his hands. "I believe you, Robert. But you know how people are. They talk. And what are they saying?" He hesitated. "That they took him for a reason. That an old man with a kid who is not family. Well, you know." I left the store with the bread under my arm, and I felt the stairs. Mrs. Ella, my neighbor across the street, was at her window. When she saw me, she quickly closed the curtain. The young guys on the corner stopped talking when I walked past them. One of them mumbled something, and another one laughed. I walked faster. Never in my life had I felt shame walking through my own neighborhood. I was born here. I grew up on this very street. I worked for 50 years 3 blocks from my house. Everyone knew me. When someone passed by, they would greet me. "Mr. Robert, how are you?" Now no one greeted me. Now they looked at me sideways, as if I were a stranger, as if I were someone dangerous. I got home and locked the door. I leaned against the door, and I took a deep breath. The phone rang. It was my daughter, Mary. She lives in Florida with her husband and their 2 children. We don't see each other much, but we talk every week. "Dad?" Her voice sounded worried. "Hi, Mary." There was a long silence. "Dad, Ethan told me what happened." I gripped the phone. "Oh, he did? And what did he tell you?" She sighed. "That they took a kid from your house. That you had him living there without papers." "Dad, is that true?" "Yes, it's true." "What were you thinking?" Her tone was scolding, as if I were a child who had done something wrong. "I was thinking about helping a boy who had no one, Mary." That's what I was thinking. Silence. Then she said, "Dad, I know your intentions were good, but you are 78 years old. You can't just take care of a child like that." I explained everything to her. I told her how I found Peter under the bridge, how he was alone, with no family, how I brought him home just to give him a warm meal, and how he stayed because he had nowhere else to go. I told her that Peter made me laugh, that he asked me questions, that he filled the house with life, that ever since he arrived, I woke up with a desire to live, that I cooked with desire, that I wanted to live again. Mary listened in silence. When I finished, there was a long pause. Dad, I understand that you felt lonely after Mom died, but you can't replace her with a kid off the street. Those words hurt me. I am not replacing anyone, Mary. I was just caring for someone who needed it. Well, now Child Protective Services will take better care of him than you will. I hung up without saying goodbye. I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed sitting on the couch, phone in hand. I looked around my house. Everything was silent. The wall clock read 6 o'clock in the evening. It was starting to get dark outside. I got up and went to the kitchen. Peter's bread was still on the table, his teacup empty and dry, his math notebook still open. I picked up the notebook. I looked at his handwriting. It was messy, childish. But you could tell he was trying hard. On the last page, he had written in red pencil, "Mr. Robert is the best person in the world." I read it 3 times, and I started crying again. I cried because no one believed me. I cried because everyone thought the worst of me. I cried because Peter was alone. And I cried because I didn't know how to bring him back. I didn't eat dinner that night. I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking, what was I going to do? I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have money. My own children had turned their backs on me. The neighborhood was looking at me with suspicion. And Peter was in some temporary home, thinking I had abandoned him, that I was just like everyone else, that I had used him and then left him. I closed my eyes, and I promised myself something. I promised myself that I wasn't going to give up. I promised myself that I was going to fight for that boy, even if the whole world was against me. Because Peter wasn't just a kid off the street. He was my boy. And I don't abandon my family. I never have. And I wasn't going to start now. The next morning, I called the Free Legal Advice Center again. This time, a woman answered. "Good morning, Legal Advice Center." I quickly explained my case. "Sir, we don't handle guardianship cases. We only do phone consultations. You need a private lawyer." She gave me 3 names. I called the first one. $5,000 up front, he told me. I hung up. I called the second one. $4,500. I hung up. I called the third one. A man named Michael King. "It depends on the case," he told me. "Come to my office tomorrow at 3. His office was in Midtown, in an old building with a broken elevator. I climbed 5 flights of stairs. When I reached the top, I was out of breath. I knocked on the door. "Come in." I went inside. It was a small office with a scratched wooden desk and 2 chairs. Michael King looked about 40, shirt with no tie, tired face. "Have a seat, Mr. Robert." I told him everything, from the beginning, how I found Peter, how he stayed with me, how Child Protective Services took him. Michael listened without interrupting, taking notes in a notebook. When I finished, he put down his pen. "You want to adopt him?" "Yes, or be his legal guardian, whatever it takes to bring him back." Michael leaned back in his chair. He looked at me with pity. "Mr. Robert, I'm going to be honest with you. At your age, it's almost impossible." I felt a tightening in my chest. "Why?" He sighed. "You are 78 years old. The system prefers young families, stable couples. Also, how much do you receive in Social Security?" $250 a month. Michael shook his head. "That's too little to support a minor, according to the court standards." I leaned forward. But I own my house. No debt, and I can still work. I still do blacksmith jobs on commission. Michael looked at me in silence. Then he opened a folder and took out some papers. Look, Mr. Robert, I'm going to explain how this works. For you to become Peter's legal guardian, you have to go through medical, psychological, and social evaluations. They have to come to your house, check everything. Then the court decides whether you're suitable or not. And the truth is, with your age, with your financial situation, the odds are low. I clenched my fists on my knees. What if I try anyway? Michael hesitated. We can try, but I will charge you $500 up front, and I can't promise you anything. $500? It was almost double my Social Security, but I had savings. I worked as a blacksmith for 50 years. I never spent much. When my wife died, I sold some old tools. I had something saved. All right, I said. I will get the money. 2 days later, I went back to Michael's office with the cash. I counted it out on his desk. $20 bills, some of them crumpled. He counted them and gave me a receipt. We're going to start with a request for information. I need to know which group home Peter is in. Then we'll request visits, and at the same time, we'll start the guardianship process. I nodded. How long will that take? It depends on the court. It could be weeks, it could be months. Months? I couldn't wait months. Is there no way to speed it up? Michael shook his head. Mr. Robert, the system is slow, and in your case, honestly, it's going to be even slower, because the court is going to be very rigorous. I left there with a knot in my stomach. Michael had made it clear that he didn't think I could win, but it was the only option I had, so I was going to try. 2 weeks passed. Michael got the information. Peter was in a temporary home in Queens. I requested a visit for you, he told me over the phone. The home rejected it. They say they can only receive visits from direct relatives. I was quiet. And now what? Now we wait for the court to authorize the visit. It could take another week. I hung up. Another week. 3 weeks had already passed since Peter was taken. 3 weeks without seeing him, without knowing how he was, if he was eating well, if he was sleeping well, if anyone was treating him with kindness. I sat on the couch. I grabbed the book I had given him, Peter and the Wolf. I opened it to the first page where he had written, "This book belongs to Peter Baker." And I wondered if he still remembered me, or if he had already forgotten me. A week later, Michael called me. "Mr. Robert, I have good news. The court authorized a 30-minute supervised visit." 30 minutes. Nothing. But it was better than nothing. When? Tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll send you the address by text. The next day, I took 3 buses to get to Queens. The home was a large house with bars on the windows and a metal gate. I rang the bell. A woman in an apron opened the door. "Robert Baker?" "Yes, that's me." She checked a list. "Come in. I'll take you to the visiting room." We went inside. The place smelled of disinfectant. There were children playing in an indoor courtyard. I looked for Peter, but I didn't see him. The woman took me to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. "Wait here. I'm going to bring the boy. You have 30 minutes. I will be present during the entire visit." I sat down. My hands were trembling. The door opened and Peter walked in. He was thinner. He had dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were new, but they were too big for him. He saw me and stopped in the doorway. "Peter," I said, and my voice cracked. He didn't move. "Son, come here," the woman gestured to him. "Go on, sit down." Peter walked slowly and sat across from me. He didn't look me in the eye. How are you, son? Silence. Peter, look at me. It's me, Mr. Robert. He looked up. His eyes were red. Why did you leave me? Those words pierced right through me. I didn't leave you, son. They took you from my house. But I'm fighting to bring you back. He shook his head. You told me you wouldn't leave me. You promised me. His voice trembled. And I'm still promising you. I am going to bring you back. Peter looked down again. Everyone says the same thing. Then no one ever comes back. I reached out my hand across the table to grab his, but the woman stopped me. No physical contact allowed. I looked at her. Not even holding his hand? No, sir. Those are the rules. I looked back at Peter. Son, listen to me. I hired a lawyer. We are starting a legal process so you can come back to me. It's going to take a little while, but I'm going to make it happen. Peter looked at me with those big, tired eyes. They treat me well here, he said. But his voice didn't sound convinced. They treat you well? He nodded. They give me food. I have a bed. There are other kids. But are you happy? Silence. Then he shook his head. No. I want to go back with you. His eyes filled with tears. I want to sleep in my bed. I want to drink your tea. I want you to tell me stories about when you were a blacksmith. I felt my soul tearing apart. And you will come back, I promise you. The woman looked at her watch. You have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes. It was nothing. Peter, I need you to tell me something. Do you have any papers? Any documents? A birth certificate? He shook his head. My grandmother had some papers, but when she died, the house was locked up. I couldn't get anything out. And where did your grandmother live? In the Bronx, near the clinic. I took a paper and a pencil out of my pocket. Do you remember the address? Peter thought. Gabriella Mistral Street. I don't remember the number, but the house was light blue with a white fence. I wrote everything down. Michael had told me we needed Peter's documents, his birth certificate, his mother's, his grandmother's. Everything. Do you remember your grandmother's full name? Rose Baker. I stopped writing. Baker? Peter nodded. Like you, Mr. Robert? I felt a chill. The woman stood up. Time's up, sir. I looked at Peter. Son, I will be back. I promise you. Peter stood up slowly. When? I don't know, son. As soon as I can. The woman led him toward the door. Peter turned around one last time. Mr. Robert, don't forget me. I will never forget you. And he left. The door closed. I stayed sitting there with the paper in my hand. Rose Baker. My sister's name was Rose. She died 40 years ago when I was 38. She was 20. She left home at 18 after fighting with my dad. I looked for her, but I never found her. I never knew what happened to her life. What if... No. It couldn't be. It was just a coincidence. Baker is a common last name. I walked out of the home like a zombie. I sat down at a bus stop. I took out the paper again. Rose Baker. Gabriella Mistral Street, the Bronx. Light blue house with a white fence. I grabbed my cell phone and called Michael. Lawyer, I need you to find something out. Peter's grandmother's last name was Baker. Rose Baker. She lived in the Bronx. I had a sister with the same name. I need to know if it's the same person. Michael was quiet for a moment. Mr. Robert, if Peter is your great-nephew, that changes everything. You would have direct family rights. I closed my eyes. That's why I need to know. I will investigate. Give me a few days. I hung up, and I stayed sitting there, looking at the paper, feeling that something very big was about to be revealed. Something that could change everything, or break me even more. 3 days later, while I was waiting for news from Michael, someone knocked on my door. It was Mrs. Rita, my neighbor. She is 68 years old and has lived alone since her husband died. She was always good to me. "Robert, can I come in?" "Of course, Mrs. Rita, come in." We went into the kitchen. I offered her tea, but she shook her head. She sat down and looked at me seriously. "Robert, I have to tell you something, and I don't know how to say it." I sat down across from her. "Just tell me, Mrs. Rita." She took a deep breath. "About a month ago, I saw your son Ethan talking to a woman on the corner. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But then, when they took Peter, I remembered something. That woman had a blue vest on, like the ones from Child Protective Services." I froze. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Robert, I'm sure. I was watering the plants, and I saw them. They were talking for about 10 minutes. I felt something twist in my stomach. "And why didn't you tell me sooner?" Mrs. Rita looked down. "Because I didn't want to get involved, and because I wasn't sure if it was important. But now, with everything that happened, I realized that Ethan was the one who made the complaint." I clenched my fists. "Did you see anything else?" "I saw Ethan give her some papers, and she put them in a folder. Papers, documents, my own address, Peter's name, everything they needed to come and get him." I stood up. "Thank you for telling me, Mrs. Rita." She also stood up. "Robert, be careful. Your son is not playing fair." She left my house. I stood in the kitchen trembling, not from cold, but from rage. My own son had betrayed me, and I needed to hear it from his mouth. I took a cab. I couldn't wait. I went straight to Ethan's office. It's in a tall glass building in a nice area of Manhattan. I went up to the 12th floor. The receptionist stopped me. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I'm his father." She hesitated. Then she picked up the phone. "Mr. Baker, your father is here." She listened. "Yes, sir." She hung up. "You can go in. Last office on the left." I walked down the hallway. My heart was pounding. I opened the door without knocking. Ethan was sitting behind a huge desk with a computer, books, and paintings on the wall. He looked up. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I closed the door. "I came to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth." Ethan put down his pen. "What are you talking about?" I took a step toward his desk. "Was it you who called Child Protective Services?" Ethan was silent. His face showed nothing. Then he sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Yes, it was me." He just said it. Without shame, without regret. I felt everything crashing down. "Why?" My voice came out as a whisper. Ethan stood up and walked over to the window. "Because I did it for your own good, Dad. That kid was going to get you into trouble." "Trouble? I was just taking care of him." Ethan turned around. "You can't take care of a child. You are 78 years old. What happens if you get sick? If you fall? If something happens to you? That boy would be abandoned again, and you would end up in the hospital. Or worse." I shook my head. "That's not your decision, Ethan. It's my life, my house, my decision. Your decision was putting everything at risk." "Everything what?" Ethan looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes, something cold. "Dad, you have a house, you have savings, you have property. If that boy stayed with you, sooner or later you were going to want to adopt him. And then, when you die, that boy was going to inherit part of what Grandpa left you." There it was, the truth. "This is about the inheritance," I said. Ethan raised his hands. It's not just about that. It's because you're not thinking clearly. Mom died 4 months ago, and you're still grieving. You found that kid, and you latched onto him because you felt lonely. But that's not love, Dad. It's desperation. I felt a knife being plunged into my chest. Don't you dare tell me what love is. I know what I feel for Peter, and what I feel is more real than anything you've ever felt in your life. Ethan closed his eyes. Then he opened a drawer in his desk and took out a folder. He put it on the table. Dad, I have documents here that prove your mental health is deteriorating. Medical certificates that say you have episodes of confusion. Testimonies from neighbors who say you talk to yourself. If you insist on bringing that child back, I'm going to use this against you, and I'm going to get you declared incompetent. I grabbed the folder and opened it. They were papers, reports, fake certificates, all invented. This is a lie. Ethan didn't say anything. He just looked at me. This is a lie, and you know it, I repeated. My voice was trembling. Dad, it's for your own good. Let that boy go. Forget about him. Live the rest of your life in peace. I closed the folder. And if I don't, then I'm going to fight you, and I'm going to win. I put the folder down on his desk. I stared at him. Ethan, I raised you alone after your mother left us. You were 8 years old. Do you remember? I woke you up at 6 o'clock in the morning to take you to school before I went to the blacksmith shop. I helped you with your homework at night, even though I was dead tired. I paid for your entire college education. I sold tools. I sold my car. I sold whatever was necessary so you could go to school. And when you graduated from law school, I was in the front row clapping, crying with pride. My voice cracked. And now you come to threaten me? You come to tell me that I'm going to fight my own son for caring for a child who only wants a family. Ethan looked away. Dad, I love you too. But this is not about love. It's about what's right. Right for who? Silence. Right for Peter or right for you? Ethan clenched his jaw. Dad, I think you should leave. Are you kicking me out? I'm asking you to leave before we say things we will both regret. I took a step toward him. I won't regret anything. I know who I am. I know what I did for you. And I know that if your mother were alive, she would be ashamed of what you've become. Those words hit him. I saw it in his face. But he didn't move. He didn't say anything. He just pressed his lips together. I picked up the folder. I'm taking this, because if you threaten me with lies, I can also have evidence. Ethan didn't try to stop me. I left his office. I closed the door slowly, and I walked down the hallway, feeling like I had just lost my son forever. I took the elevator down. I left the building. The sun hit my face. I walked aimlessly through the streets of Manhattan. People hurried past me, talking on the phone, drinking coffee. And I was just there, with a folder full of lies in my hand, feeling that everything I had built in my life was falling apart. My son had betrayed me. My neighbors were looking at me strangely. The system was rejecting me for being old. And Peter was alone in a home, thinking I had abandoned him. I sat down on a bench. I opened the folder again. The papers said I had mild cognitive impairment, that I talked to people who didn't exist, that I showed erratic behavior. All lies. But well-written lies, with official stamps, with fake signatures. Ethan had planned all of this. He had prepared his attack in advance. My own son. If you are listening to my story, please tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Sometimes, knowing that there is someone on the other side listening to me gives me the strength to continue. I sat there for I don't know how long. Then I called Michael. Lawyer, My son threatened me. He has fake documents that say I'm mentally ill. He's going to use them against me if I keep fighting for Peter. Michael sighed. Mr. Robert, that's serious. Do you have the documents? I have them here with me. Bring them to me tomorrow. I'm going to review them. If they are fake, we can report him. I don't want to report my son. Then you will have to decide what is more important, your son or Peter. I hung up. The question hung in the air. What was more important, my son, who had betrayed me, or the boy who had given me my life back? I went back home when it was already night. I walked in and turned on the kitchen light. Everything was silent. I sat at the table. I put the folder in front of me. I looked at it. Then I opened it and started tearing out the pages one by one. I ripped them into shreds. Small pieces of paper fell onto the table like snow. When I finished, I gathered all the pieces and threw them in the trash. I wasn't going to let Ethan destroy me. I wasn't going to let him take away my dignity. And I wasn't going to let him keep me away from Peter. Because even though the whole world was against me, even though the system rejected me, even though my own son had betrayed me, I knew one thing. I knew that Peter needed me, and I needed him. And that was all that mattered. I stood up. I took a deep breath, and I promised myself that I was going to keep fighting, no matter what the cost. The next day, someone knocked on my door at 8 o'clock in the morning. I opened it. It was Michael, my best friend. We worked together in the blacksmith shop for 30 years. He was the one who managed the large anvil while I tempered the iron. When I closed the shop 5 years ago, he retired too. He is 73 years old now, hands as big as shovels, and a loyalty that never failed me. "Robert," he said, and he walked in without me inviting him. He sat down at the kitchen table as if it were his own house. I heard about everything. Mrs. Rita told me. I closed the door and sat across from him. "Michael, this is a mess. My own son betrayed me." Michael pounded the table with his fist. "Your son is a scumbag. But it doesn't matter. I saw how that boy changed your life. You became the old Robert again, and I'm not going to let them defeat you." "I don't know what else to do." "We are going to fight, old man, together." Michael took out his cell phone. "I have a nephew. His name is Arnold King. He's a lawyer. He works on difficult cases for people in the neighborhood who don't have money. I told him your story, and he wants to help you." I frowned. "Michael, I already hired a lawyer. Michael King." Michael shook his head. "That guy is useless. You paid him $500, and what has he done? Nothing. Arnold is different. He's young, he's got fire, and he won't charge you anything." "Nothing?" "Nothing. He's going to do it for free because I asked him to, and because I told him that your son is a lawyer and is playing dirty. That made him mad." I didn't know what to say. "When can I meet him?" "He's outside in my car right now." Michael stood up and opened the door. A young man got out of an old car. He looked about 35, jeans, a black shirt, worn-out sneakers. He came up the stairs and walked in. "Mr. Robert," he said, and shook my hand. "I'm Arnold King." The three of us sat down in the kitchen. Arnold took out a notebook and a pencil. "Tell me everything from the beginning. Don't skip anything." I told him. From when I found Peter to Ethan's betrayal. Arnold took notes without interrupting. When I finished, he closed the notebook. "Okay, this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to fire Michael King. That guy is slow and expensive. Second, we're going to file a request for temporary guardianship with the family court. Third, I need you to get complete medical exams. Fourth, a psychological evaluation. Fifth, social workers are going to come and check your house. And sixth, we are going to get testimonies from the neighborhood that show you are a good person. I looked at him, overwhelmed. And how long will all that take? 3 weeks, a month maximum. But if we do it well, we have real chances. Do you really think I can win? Arnold looked me straight in the eye. Mr. Robert, it's difficult, but it's not impossible, and I don't lose. Arnold stood up. One more thing. Your son is going to fight. He's going to file appeals. He's going to bring witnesses. He's going to invent things. We have to be prepared. I took out my cell phone and showed him the photos I had taken of Ethan's fake documents before I tore them up. He has this. He says he's going to report me for mental incapacity. Arnold looked at the photos. His face became serious. This is falsification of public documents. We could file a criminal complaint against him. I don't want to report my son. Arnold nodded. I understand. But if he presents this to the court, we are going to prove it is false. We will request expert evaluations, handwriting analysis, whatever is necessary. He put away his notebook. Mr. Robert, I need you to trust me. I am going to bring Peter back. I promise you. Something in his voice made me believe him. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That same afternoon, Mrs. Rita knocked on my door again. She brought 3 more neighbors, Mr. John from the corner store, Mrs. Eliana from the house on the corner, and Mr. Otis, who was a mailman. Robert, I talked to them, Mrs. Rita said. They are all going to testify in your favor. Mr. John came closer. Robert, forgive me for treating you strange the other day. People were talking, and I let it get to me. But I know who you are. I've known you for 30 years, and I'm going to tell the court that you are the best person I know. Mrs. Eliana also spoke. I saw how you took care of that boy. You took him to school every morning. You bought him school supplies. You cut his hair. No one with bad intentions would do that. Mr. Otis put a hand on my shoulder. Count on me, Robert. I will testify to whatever is necessary. I felt a release in my chest. I was not alone. The following days were a whirlwind. Arnold got me an appointment with a general practitioner at a clinic. They checked me completely. Blood pressure, heart, lungs, blood. For your age, you are quite well, the doctor told me. Your blood pressure is a little high, but nothing serious. He gave me a certificate. Then I went to see a psychologist, a young woman with glasses. She asked me questions. Why do you want to care for Peter? Because he needs me, and I need him. Do you feel lonely? I felt lonely. But Peter filled that void. And what happens when you can no longer care for him? That question hurt me. Ma'am, I am 78 years old. I don't know how much time I have left. But the time I do have left, I want Peter to have a home. And after that, well, we'll see. She typed on her computer. At the end, she told me, Mr. Robert, I think you have a lot of love to give. I'm going to put that in my report. A week later, the social worker came to my house. Her name was Patricia. She looked about 40. Serious face. She walked in with a folder and started checking everything. The bathroom, the kitchen, Peter's room. She opened the closet. She checked the sheets. She looked to see if there was food in the refrigerator. She took pictures with her cell phone. I nervously followed her. Is everything okay? She didn't answer. She just wrote in her folder. Then she sat down at the kitchen table. Mr. Robert, I have to ask you some questions. How much do you earn a month? $250 in Social Security, and I do blacksmith work on commission. Sometimes I earn $100 more, sometimes nothing. Do you have debts? No, the house is mine. I don't owe anything. Do you have savings? I have $1,500 saved. Patricia wrote, Does anyone else live here? No, just me. Do you have relatives who can help you care for Peter? I thought of Ethan and Mary. No, my children don't support this. Patricia looked up. Why? I explained. I told her that Ethan was the one who reported me, that Mary thought I was confused. Patricia listened without judging. Then she closed her folder. Mr. Robert, I'm going to be honest with you. Your house is in good condition. You have space for a minor. There is food, order, cleanliness. But your age is a factor against you. And the fact that your children don't support you also concerns the court. I lowered my head. So I don't have a chance? Patricia stood up. I didn't say that. I said it's difficult. But I've seen more difficult cases work out. I am going to put in my report that this house is suitable. And I am going to recommend that temporary guardianship be granted while the definitive case is resolved. I looked up. Really? She nodded. Peter needs a home, and you have a home to give him. That's what matters. She left my house. I stood in the doorway, feeling that finally something was going right. Arnold organized a meeting at my house with all the neighbors who were going to testify. Mrs. Rita, Mr. John, Eliana, Otis, Michael, and 3 other neighbors came. Arnold explained what they would have to say in court. They are going to ask you how you know Mr. Robert, how long you've known him, if you ever saw anything suspicious, if Peter looked happy or scared. You have to be honest, but you also have to be clear. Mr. Robert is a good person. Each one rehearsed their statement. Mrs. Rita said, I saw Robert with Peter every day. They went for walks. The boy was laughing. He looked clean, well-fed, happy. Mr. John said, Robert has always been a hard worker, honest, a family man. If he decided to take care of that boy, it's because he felt it was the right thing to do. I listened to them, and my eyes filled with tears. People who had doubted me were now willing to fight for me. Arnold looked at me. Mr. Robert, there's one more thing I need to tell you. I'm going to investigate Peter's background. We need to know if he has living family, if he has aunts, uncles, cousins, anyone. Because if a direct relative appears, they would have priority over you. I remembered what Peter had told me. His grandmother's name was Rose Baker. She lived in the Bronx. Arnold wrote down Baker as his last name. Yes, I had a sister named Rose. She died 40 years ago, but I don't know if it's the same one. Arnold looked at me intently. If Peter is your great-nephew, that changes everything. You would have automatic family rights. Guardianship would be almost certain. I felt a chill. Can you find that out? I will go to the records office tomorrow, and I'm going to look for the house in the Bronx. If I find documents, we will know the truth. I couldn't sleep that night. What if Peter really was my family? What if my sister had a daughter and I never knew? If this story is touching your heart, leave a comment telling me where you are watching from. Knowing that someone is listening to me gives me the strength to keep telling it. 2 days later, Arnold called me. Mr. Robert, I found something. I need you to come to my office. I ran. Well, running for a 78-year-old man. When I arrived, Arnold had papers on his desk. I got the death certificate for Rose Baker. She died in 2005 in the Bronx. She was 62 years old. This is Elena's birth certificate. She died in 2014. She left one son, Peter Baker. Mr. Robert, Arnold said, if this is confirmed with additional documents and Peter really is your great-nephew, the case changes completely. But we need more proof. 3 weeks were spent organizing everything. Arnold presented all the documents to the court. The medical certificates, the psychological evaluation, the social study, the neighbors' testimonies, and, most importantly, the certificates that proved the relationship. Peter was the son of Elena Baker, the granddaughter of Rose Baker, my sister. That made me his great-uncle, his family, his blood. Arnold was certain. With this, the guardianship is yours, Mr. Robert. The court cannot deny you the right to care for your own great-nephew. I held on to that hope. For the first time in a month and 3 weeks, I felt that I was going to get Peter back, that he was going to come home, that we were going to be a family. The hearing was scheduled for a Friday in March at 10 o'clock in the morning. Arnold told me to wear formal clothes. I put on my black suit, the one I wore at my wife's funeral. I shaved carefully. I combed my hair back with hair gel. I had to look presentable. I arrived at the courthouse at 9:30. Arnold was already there. Michael, Mrs. Rita, Mr. John, and other neighbors who were going to testify were also there. "Nervous?" Arnold asked me. "Very." He put a hand on my shoulder. "Relax. We have everything in our favor." We walked into the courtroom. It was a large room with a long table, chairs, and at the front, the judge's stand. Her name was Judge Gloria Stone, according to a plaque. She looked about 50, short hair, glasses, serious face. We sat down. The judge reviewed papers. "Good morning," she said. "We are here for the guardianship case of the minor Peter Baker, requested by Mr. Robert Baker Ledesma." She looked toward us. "Mr. Baker?" I stood up. "Present, Your Honor." "Please sit down. We will hear the arguments of the requesting attorney." Arnold stood up and began to speak. He explained everything: how I found Peter, how I cared for him, and most importantly, that we were family. Arnold presented the certificates. "Your Honor, here are the documents that prove Peter Baker is my client's great-nephew. This grants him automatic family rights according to the Civil Code. My client not only has the willingness to care for the minor, but also the legal right as a direct relative." The judge reviewed the papers. "I understand. And where is the maternal family? The grandmother, aunts or uncles on the mother's side?" Arnold replied, "The grandmother passed away, Your Honor, and there is no record of other living relatives on that line." The judge wrote something down. "Does the minor know that Mr. Baker is his great-uncle?" "No, Your Honor. We only discovered it 3 weeks ago." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Baker, please stand." I stood up. My legs were shaking. "Are you in the physical and mental condition to take care of a 12-year-old minor?" "Yes, Your Honor. I am 78 years old, but I am healthy. The doctors checked me. I am fine." "And financially?" "I have Social Security, savings, and my own house." The judge reviewed more papers. "I see here favorable medical reports, a positive psychological evaluation, a social study that recommends temporary guardianship, and testimonies from neighbors who speak highly of you." I felt my heart beating faster. "I also see that the minor was under your care for 3 months and was removed due to lack of legal documentation, not due to abuse or neglect." Arnold intervened. "That is correct, Your Honor. My client acted in good faith. He did not know he needed formal documentation, but now we are here to do things correctly." The judge nodded. "Very well. I will hear the witnesses. Mrs. Rita Johnson, please come forward." Mrs. Rita stood up, trembling. She sat in the witness chair. The judge asked her, "How do you know Mr. Baker?" "I have been his neighbor for 20 years, Your Honor." "And what can you tell me about how he treated the minor?" Mrs. Rita became emotional. "He treated him like a son. I saw them every day. The boy was laughing, playing. He was happy. Mr. John, Eliana, and Otis also testified. They all said the same thing, that I was a good person, that Peter was well cared for, that he looked happy. The judge listened to everything. Then she looked at Arnold. Do you have any more witnesses? No, Your Honor. The judge reviewed her papers again. Good. Before issuing a ruling, is there any other party that wishes to intervene? Silence. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed like everything had gone well. Arnold looked at me and smiled. But at that moment, the courtroom door opened, and my son Ethan walked in. He was wearing a navy blue suit, carrying his leather briefcase, and with him was another man in a gray suit whom I didn't know. The judge looked at them. Who are you? Ethan approached. Your Honor, I am Ethan Baker, the applicant's son. I am here to present a motion of opposition to the guardianship. I felt everything collapsing. Arnold jumped up. Your Honor, this is irregular. The deadline to file an opposition expired a week ago. Ethan smiled. Your Honor, I request permission to present new evidence that has just come to my attention. Evidence that demonstrates my father is not fit to exercise guardianship. The judge frowned. What kind of evidence? Ethan took a folder out of his briefcase. Updated medical reports that demonstrate mild cognitive impairment in my father and a psychiatric evaluation performed by the doctor accompanying me. The man in the gray suit nodded. Ethan placed the papers on the judge's desk. I stood up. That's a lie. He invented those papers. The judge banged her gavel. Order, Mr. Baker, sit down. Arnold grabbed the papers. He quickly reviewed them. His face went pale. Your Honor, these documents are false. We already presented medical and psychological evaluations that demonstrate my client is perfectly fine. Ethan raised his hand. Your Honor, my father was evaluated a month ago. These reports are from last week. The deterioration has progressed. The judge reviewed the papers Ethan had presented. Doctor, she looked at the name. Dr. Sergio Fuentes. Did you evaluate Mr. Robert Baker? The man in the gray suit stood up. Yes, Your Honor. I evaluated him this Monday in my private practice. Mr. Baker presents clear signs of mild cognitive impairment, frequent forgetfulness, temporal disorientation, and difficulty making complex decisions. I stood up again. I never went to his office. I don't know him. The judge banged her gavel again. Mr. Baker, if you interrupt again, I will have you removed from the courtroom. Arnold stood up. Your Honor, my client denies having been evaluated by this doctor. This is clearly a forgery. I demand an investigation. Ethan took out more papers. Your Honor, here is the appointment record signed by my father. Arnold grabbed the paper. I looked at it. It was a signature. But it wasn't mine. It was similar, but not mine. Arnold showed the paper to the judge. Your Honor, this signature is false. We can do a handwriting analysis right now. Ethan smiled coldly. Your Honor, my father is 78 years old. His signature has changed over time. It's normal. The judge looked at the papers. Then she looked at me. Then she looked at Ethan. Mr. Ethan Baker, are you a lawyer? Yes, Your Honor. And you are filing a formal opposition to your father caring for his great-nephew? That is correct, Your Honor, because my father is not fit, and because as his son, I have the responsibility to ensure his well-being. Arnold exploded. This is a farce. This man reported his own father to Child Protective Services out of spite. He has a conflict of interest. The judge raised her hand. Attorneys, control yourselves. This is a courtroom, not a market. Arnold sat down, furious. I could only look at my son, and he looked back at me. without emotion, without guilt. Nothing. The judge reviewed all the papers, mine, Ethan's. 10 minutes of silence passed. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. Finally, the judge spoke. I have reviewed both positions. On the one hand, we have favorable medical and psychological evaluations for Mr. Robert Baker. On the other hand, we have a recent psychiatric report that indicates cognitive deterioration. There is an evident contradiction. Arnold stood up. Your Honor, I request that an independent evaluation be done by a court expert. The judge nodded. I was going to suggest it myself. I will order a new psychiatric evaluation of Mr. Robert Baker, performed by a professional appointed by this court. Until we have those results, I will postpone my decision. I felt everything crashing down on me. How long will that take? I asked. The judge looked at me. 4 to 6 weeks, Mr. Baker. Perhaps longer. 6 weeks. Almost 2 more months without Peter. The judge stood up. The hearing is adjourned. We will meet again when we have the results of the new evaluation. She banged her gavel. Everyone stood up. I stayed seated, paralyzed. Michael put a hand on my shoulder. Robert, relax. We will fight this. But I wasn't listening. I was only looking at Ethan. He was putting his papers away in his briefcase. The fake doctor had already left. Ethan closed his briefcase and walked toward the exit. He passed right by me. He stopped for a second. I'm sorry, Dad, he said. But his voice didn't sound apologetic. It sounded empty. He walked out of the courtroom. I stayed there, feeling that I had just lost. That everything we had built, all the evidence, all the testimonies, everything had been brought down by my own son's lies. Arnold sat down next to me. Mr. Robert, don't give up. We are going to prove those papers are false. But I no longer had the strength. We left the courthouse. It was raining outside. A fine, cold rain. The neighbors said goodbye. Don't worry, Robert. It will turn out fine. But their voices sounded hollow. Michael stayed with me. Old man, let's go get something to drink. I shook my head. I want to go home. I took a taxi alone. I got home. I walked in. Everything was dark. I turned on the kitchen light. Peter's chair was still empty. His backpack was still hanging up. His notebook was still open to the same page. I sat down. And for the first time in this whole nightmare, I felt that I wasn't going to be able to do it. That Ethan was stronger. That the system was against me. That maybe Peter was never coming back. I closed my eyes, and I cried. I cried with rage. I cried with helplessness. I cried because my son had betrayed me again. And I cried because I didn't know if I could keep fighting. But deep down, very deep down, a voice told me, don't give up. Peter needs you. And that voice was the only thing keeping me alive. 4 days passed after the hearing. 4 days in which I didn't leave my house. I didn't eat well. I didn't sleep well. I just sat there staring at the door, waiting for I don't know what. Arnold called me every day. Mr. Robert, you have to eat. You have to rest. We need you to be strong for the next hearing. But I had no strength. I felt defeated. Ethan had achieved what he wanted. To plant doubt. To make the judge think I was crazy. And the worst part was that I was going to have to wait 6 more weeks to prove that I wasn't. 6 weeks in which Peter would keep thinking I had abandoned him. On Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me press the green button. Mr. Robert Baker? It was a woman's voice. Yes, that's me. This is Patricia Munoz, the social worker who visited your house. I sat up straight. Ms. Patricia, did something happen with Peter? No, he's fine. but I need you to come to my office urgently. I found something important." I took a taxi. I couldn't wait for the bus. I arrived at the Child Protective Services office in 20 minutes. Patricia was waiting for me in a small cubicle full of folders. "Mr. Robert, sit down." I sat down. She had several papers on her desk. After the hearing on Friday, I kept thinking, your son presented documents that put your mental capacity in doubt. And that seemed strange to me. Too convenient. So I decided to investigate on my own. She picked up a folder. I went to the records office. I searched for all the information about Peter I could find. His birth certificate, his mother Elena's, his grandmother Rose's. She opened the folder and showed me the papers. I already knew them. Arnold had gotten them. "Yes, ma'am, my lawyer already found those documents. Peter is my great-nephew." Patricia nodded. "I know, but there's something else your lawyer didn't find." She took out another paper. It was old, yellowed. "I found this in Rose Baker's abandoned house in the Bronx." She handed me the paper. It was a letter, handwritten in blue ink. The handwriting was shaky, like someone very sick. "Dear Robert," it began. I felt my throat close up. "If you are reading this, it is because I have already passed away. I know we haven't spoken in more than 30 years, and I know it's my fault. I left home angry with Dad and never came back. I was proud. I was foolish. But I want you to know something. I had a daughter. Her name is Elena. She is your niece, and now she has a son. His name is Peter, your great-nephew. If something happens to me, please, take care of them. They are the only good thing I left in this world. Love, your sister Rose." The letter was dated 2004, a year before Rose died. I read the letter 3 times. My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold the paper. "Where did you get this?" Patricia looked at me. "I went to the house where Rose lived in the Bronx. It's abandoned, but I spoke to the neighbors. They let me go in. I found this letter in a closet drawer." I couldn't speak. I only looked at the words. Take care of them. My sister had asked me to take care of Peter, and I didn't even know he existed. Patricia took more things out of a bag under her desk. Photos, old, faded. "I found these too." She showed me a photo. It was of Rose, young, with a baby in her arms. On the back of the photo it said, "Elena, 6 months." Another photo. Rose with a girl about 10 years old. Elena, first day of school. Another one. Rose, older now, with a young woman holding a baby. Rose, Elena, and Peter. I looked at the photo of baby Peter. He had the same big eyes, the same nose. He looked like my dad. He looked like me when I was a child. "Ms. Patricia," I said, and my voice cracked. "My sister had a daughter, and I never knew it." Patricia nodded. "From what I was able to investigate, Rose got pregnant young. The father didn't take responsibility. She raised Elena alone. She worked as a domestic worker. They lived in a small house in the Bronx. They never had much. But Rose loved her daughter, and Elena loved her son, Peter. Until Elena died in a traffic accident when Peter was 6 years old. Rose took care of Peter after that. She raised him until she died of cancer last year. I couldn't stop looking at the photos. My sister, my niece, my great-nephew, an entire family I never knew. Patricia continued. When Rose died, Peter was 11 years old. They sent him to a foster home, but they treated him badly there. One day he ran away, and he started living on the street until you found him. I closed my eyes. Peter had been alone for a whole year, and I didn't know it. I didn't know my great-nephew was sleeping under a bridge. I didn't know my sister had died. I didn't know anything. Why did Rose never look for me? Patricia took out another letter. This one was older, from the 90s. I found this one too. It's a draft of a letter Rose never sent. I read it. Robert, I've thought 1,000 times about calling you, but I'm scared. Scared that you'll reject me like Dad rejected me. Scared that you'll tell me I'm not your sister anymore. I've made so many mistakes, but I want you to know that I miss you. I miss you every day. I felt something break inside me. Mr. Robert, Patricia said, this changes everything legally. I looked up. What do you mean? She gathered all the papers. Your son presented documents saying you are not right in the head. But these documents, these letters, these photos, demonstrate that you and Peter have a bond that goes beyond the 3 months you lived together. You are family. Rose wanted you to take care of him. It is written in her letter. That gives enormous emotional and legal weight to your guardianship request. I grabbed Rose's letter again. Take care of them. Ms. Patricia, I didn't know any of this when I found Peter. I only helped him because he was on the street. She smiled. I know, and that makes everything even more powerful. Fate brought you together, Mr. Robert. You found your great-nephew without knowing who he was. You cared for him without expecting anything in return. And now that we know the truth, no one can say you don't have the right to care for him. Patricia put everything away in the folder. I am going to present this information to the court. I will attach it to my social report. And I am going to strongly recommend that permanent guardianship be granted. I felt that I could breathe again. Do you really think this will help? Mr. Robert, this doesn't just help. This changes the case completely. Your son can no longer argue that you are a stranger trying to adopt a kid off the street. You are family. You are blood. And Rose's letter is an expressed will that you care for Peter. No judge is going to ignore that. I stood up and shook her hand. Thank you, Miss Patricia. You don't know what this means to me. She squeezed my hand. Mr. Robert, I have this job because I believe that children deserve to be with people who love them. And you love Peter. It shows. And I am going to do everything in my power to bring you two together. I left her office with the folder under my arm. With the photos, with the letters, with the proof that Rose had asked me to care for Peter 30 years before I even met him. I went straight to Arnold's office. I walked in without knocking. He was eating a sandwich. Mr. Robert, what happened? I showed him everything. The letters, the photos. Arnold read in silence. When he finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "This is pure gold, Mr. Robert. We are going to bury your son with this." "I don't want to bury my son," I said. "I just want to bring Peter back." Arnold nodded. "I know, but this gives us ammunition. I'm going to present everything to the judge. I'm going to ask for the hearing to be moved up, not to wait 6 weeks, to resolve it now." Can we do that? With this evidence, yes. Because now we have documentary proof that Peter is your family. And Rose's letter is a testamentary will. Your sister asked you to care for Peter. Legally, that carries a lot of weight. I felt that finally something was going right. When can we present this? Tomorrow morning. I'm going to draft an emergency motion tonight. I couldn't sleep that night. But it wasn't out of anguish. It was for something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I took out the photos Patricia had given me. I looked at Rose, my sister. She looked happy in the photos. Despite everything, she looked happy. I looked at Elena, my niece. I never met her. She died without me knowing she existed. And I looked at Peter, small in his grandmother's arms, in a school uniform, with a shy smile. my great-nephew, my family. I grabbed an old picture frame I had stored away. I took out the photo inside and put in one of the photos of Rose with Peter. I put it on my nightstand. "Sister," I said aloud, "forgive me for not being there, but now I'm going to take care of Peter, I promise you." And I felt something loosen in my chest, as if Rose had heard me, as if she was telling me it was okay, that she could finally rest knowing Peter was going to be with me. The next day, Arnold presented everything to the court. I didn't go. He told me it was better if he did it alone. I waited all day at my house. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he called me. "Mr. Robert, I have news. The judge reviewed the documents. She is very impressed. She ordered the hearing to be moved up. It will be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yes, and there's more. The judge also ordered that visits between you and Peter be allowed, twice a week, 1 hour each time. Supervised, but they are visits." I felt my heart explode. "I can see Peter?" "Yes. The first visit is Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the home." I hung up, sat down, and cried. But I didn't cry out of sadness. I cried with happiness, because in 2 days, I was going to see Peter, and I was going to be able to tell him the truth, that we were family, that we always were, and that he was never going to be alone again. On Tuesday, I arrived at the Queen's home at 3:30. Half an hour early. I couldn't wait. Patricia greeted me at the entrance. "Mr. Robert, come in. Peter is waiting for you." We walked into the same visiting room. Peter was already sitting there. When he saw me, he stood up. "Mr. Robert?" His voice sounded different, hoarser, as if he had cried a lot. I sat across from him. Patricia stayed in a corner. "Son, I have something to tell you. Something important." Peter looked at me with those tired eyes. "What?" I took the photos out of my pocket. I passed them across the table to him. "This is your grandmother, Rose. This is your mother, Elena. And this is you, as a baby." Peter took the photos. He looked at them. "How did you get them?" "They were found in your grandmother's house." I took out another photo. "This is Rose when she was 20 years old." Peter looked at it. "She looks like my mom." "Yes. And do you know who Rose is?" Peter shook his head. I took a deep breath. "Rose was my sister. Your grandmother was my sister. Peter, you are my great-nephew. We are family." Peter looked at me as if he didn't understand. "Family?" "Yes, son, family. That's why we have the same last name. Your grandmother Rose was my little sister. She died without me knowing it. I never knew she had a daughter, your mother, and I never knew you existed. Until now." Peter put the photos on the table. He was quiet. Then he asked, "So you found me because you knew we were family?" "No, Peter. I found you without knowing who you were. I cared for you without knowing you were my nephew. But now that I know, everything makes sense. That's why I felt from the first day that I had to take care of you, because you are my blood." Peter's eyes filled with tears. "Are we really family?" I nodded. "Really, son?" I looked at Patricia. Her eyes were red too. Peter stood up. I stood up. And for the first time in 2 months, I hugged him. I hugged him tight. And he hugged me back. Crying, both of us crying. "I don't want to be here anymore, Mr. Robert. I want to go home." "You will come home, son. I promise you. Now I have everything I need to bring you back." Arnold presented all the new evidence to Judge Gloria Stone. Rose's letters, the photos, the certificates confirming the relationship. Patricia Munoz presented her updated report, strongly recommending guardianship. But Ethan didn't stay silent. 3 days after we presented everything, he filed an appeal. Arnold called me. "Mr. Robert, Your son is arguing that the letters could be fake, that there is no way to prove Rose wrote them, and he is requesting a DNA test. I gripped the phone. A DNA test? Yes. He wants a DNA test between you and Peter to confirm the relationship. He says that until there is scientific proof, everything else is just papers that could be invented. I felt rage. He falsified medical documents, and now he's accusing me of falsifying letters. Arnold sighed. I know. But honestly, Mr. Robert, a DNA test benefits us. It will definitively prove that Peter is your great-nephew. No one will be able to argue anything anymore. The judge ordered the DNA test. They set the date for that Friday. I arrived at the lab early. Peter arrived with Patricia half an hour later. They seated us in separate chairs. A woman in a white coat explained the procedure to us. We are going to take a saliva sample from each of you. We'll swab the inside of your cheek. It doesn't hurt. The results will be ready in 2 to 3 weeks. She started with me. I opened my mouth. She passed the swab. Then she put it in a little tube with liquid. She did the same with Peter. Done. The results will be sent directly to the court. We left the lab. Peter approached me. Mr. Robert, what if we're not family? I knelt down to his level. Son, even if the test says we're not family, you will always be my son. Because family isn't just blood. It's love. And I love you as if you were my son. Peter hugged me. I love you too, Mr. Robert. 3 weeks passed. 3 endless weeks. Arnold called me every 2 days to tell me there were still no results. I went to visit Peter twice a week, 1 hour each time. I brought him things, books, chocolates. One day I brought him his school backpack with all his notebooks. You saved my things? Of course, son. Your room is exactly the same, waiting for you. Peter smiled. A real smile. For the first time in a long time. Are you going to teach me blacksmithing when I come back? I'm going to teach you everything I know. And are we going to have mint tea in the mornings? Every day, son. Peter looked at me with hope, and I did everything possible not to let him down. But at night, when I was alone in my house, fear crept in. What if the test came back negative? What if there was a mistake? What if Rose wasn't really my sister? But then I looked at the photos. I looked at the letter, and I knew it was real. It had to be real. On the Wednesday of the 3rd week, Arnold called me shouting, Mr. Robert, the results are in. I almost fell out of my chair. And what do they say? Relationship confirmed. 99.9% probability that you and Peter are great-uncle and great-nephew. I closed my eyes. Thank you, God. Thank you. What now? Now we present the results to the court, and we ask for the final hearing. With this, Mr. Robert, your son has nothing left. The game is over. I slept peacefully that night for the first time in 2 months. Peter was my family, scientifically proven. No one could say otherwise anymore, not even Ethan. Arnold presented the results to the court the next day. The judge scheduled the final hearing for 2 weeks later. It's the last hearing, Arnold told me. Everything will be decided there. Either you win or your son wins. But I assure you, we are going to win. I wanted to believe him. But I had learned not to celebrate prematurely. I went to visit Peter on Friday. When I walked into the room, he stood up and ran toward me. Patricia didn't stop him. He hugged me tight. Is it true, Mr. Robert? Did the test confirm we are family? It's true, my son. You are my great-nephew, officially. Peter cried on my shoulder. I always wanted to have family. When my grandmother died, I thought I was going to be alone forever. And now I have an uncle. I stroked his hair. And I have a grandson. Well, great nephew. But to me, you are my grandson. We sat down. Peter grabbed my hand across the table. Patricia smiled from her corner. Mr. Robert, when can I come home? Soon, son. There's a hearing in 2 weeks. The judge will decide then if you can come back with me. And if she says no, she won't say no. We have everything in our favor. The evidence, the testimonies, the DNA, everything. Peter squeezed my hand. I'm scared. Me too. But we are going to be fine. The days leading up to the hearing were strange. On one hand, I felt hope. On the other, I felt fear. Fear that something would go wrong. That Ethan would invent something new. That the judge would decide I was too old. Michael visited me every day. Old man, stop thinking so much. You already won. We just need the judge to make it official. Mrs. Rita brought me food. Robert, you have to eat well. You can't go to the hearing thin and sick. Mr. John gave me a new shirt. So you look presentable. The neighborhood people supported me. They stopped me in the street. Mr. Robert, how is everything going with the boy? Good, thank you. I hope you bring him back soon. I nodded. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that I was not alone, that I had a community, that I had people who loved me, and that gave me the strength to continue. On the Monday before the hearing, Arnold called me. Mr. Robert, your son filed one last appeal. I felt my stomach clench. What now? He's arguing that even though you are Peter's family, your age is still an impediment. That a 78-year-old man cannot guarantee long-term stability. That Peter needs a young family who can care for him until he is an adult. I closed my eyes. And what are we going to say in response? That age does not determine the capacity to love. That you have a house, stable income, acceptable health for your age, and that Peter has already chosen. He wants to be with you. Does that count? It counts? Yes. The judge can ask Peter what he wants. And if he says he wants to live with you, that weighs a lot. I took a deep breath. All right. I trust you, Arnold. Trust yourself, Mr. Robert. And trust Peter. The two of you are a family. And no judge is going to separate a family. The day of the hearing arrived. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I showered calmly. I shaved slowly. I put on the shirt Mr. John had given me, my best pants, my black shoes that I had shined the night before. I ate toast and tea for breakfast, the same mint tea I made for Peter. I left my house at 8. The hearing was at 10, but I couldn't stay home waiting. I took a taxi. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:30. Arnold was already there. Michael, Mrs. Rita, Mr. John, Patricia Munoz, all my witnesses were there too. Ready? Arnold asked me. Ready. We walked into the courtroom at 9:50. The judge arrived on time. Good morning. We are here for the guardianship case of the minor Peter Baker. Case number 2025-0312. Both parties are present. Arnold stood up. Requesting party is present, Your Honor. On the other side, Ethan stood up. Opposing party is present. The judge looked at us. Very well, let us begin. The judge reviewed all the documents, the DNA results, Rose's letters, the photos, the medical reports, the testimonies, everything. 30 minutes passed in silence. Then she looked up. I have reviewed all the evidence presented by both parties, and I must say that this is a very particular case. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought everyone would hear it. On one hand, we have a 78-year-old man who wants to care for his great-nephew. On the other hand, we have his son who argues that age is an impediment. The judge took off her glasses. But there is something that draws my attention a great deal. Mr. Robert Baker cared for Peter for 3 months without knowing he was his family. He cared for him because he saw a child in need, and that speaks very highly of his character. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Furthermore, we have a letter from Rose Baker, the applicant's sister, in which she expresses her desire for her brother to care for her family. That cannot be ignored. The judge continued, I have decided that before taking a final decision, I want to hear from the minor. I will bring Peter into this courtroom, and I will ask him what he wants. Because in the end, this is about him. She walked out through a side door. I looked at Arnold. He nodded. Relax. Ethan stared ahead without expression. 5 minutes later, the door opened, and Peter walked in, with Patricia. The boy looked around. He saw me. His eyes lit up. The judge instructed him to sit in a chair in front of her. Hello, Peter. I am Judge Gloria Stone. Do you know why you are here? Peter nodded. Because they are going to decide if I can go back to live with Mr. Robert. That is correct. And before I decide, I want to ask you something. Do you want to live with Mr. Robert? Peter looked at me. I smiled at him. He turned back to the judge. And with a firm, clear voice, he said, Yes, Your Honor. He is my family, and I want to be with my family. The judge looked at Peter. Why do you want to live with him? Peter was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice trembled, but it was firm. Because when everyone else left me, he took me in. When I was sleeping on the bridge, cold, hungry, he took me to his house. He gave me food. He gave me a bed. He treated me like I was his son. And now I know we are family. But even if we weren't, he is the only person in the world who has truly loved me. I felt my throat closing up. Peter continued, They treat me well at the home. They give me food. I have a bed. But it's not my home. My home is with Mr. Robert, drinking tea in the morning, learning blacksmithing, listening to his stories. He makes me feel like I matter, that I'm not invisible. The judge wrote something down. And are you not worried that Mr. Robert is old? That he might get sick? Peter looked her straight in the eye. He is 78 years old. I am 12. Maybe we won't be together for 30 years. But I would rather be with him for 10 years than be alone for the rest of my life. Ethan stood up. Your Honor, with all due respect, the minor does not have the maturity to make this decision. He is a child. He cannot understand the long-term implications. Peter turned toward Ethan. I know what it's like to be alone. I slept on the street for a whole year. I saw things you will never see. And I know who loves me and who doesn't. Ethan clenched his jaw. Your Honor, I insist that my father does not have the physical or financial capacity to raise a minor. The judge raised her hand. Mr. Ethan Baker, I have already reviewed all your arguments, and I have seen that you presented false documents about your father's mental health. Documents that were discredited by court experts. That does not speak well of your credibility. Ethan turned pale. Your Honor, I just wanted to protect my father. Protect him or protect your inheritance? Silence. Ethan did not respond. The judge looked at him harshly. You may sit down. The judge called the witnesses. First, Mrs. Rita came up. She sat in the witness chair with trembling hands. Mrs. Rita Johnson, how long have you known Mr. Robert Baker? 20 years, Your Honor. He is my neighbor. And what can you tell me about how he cared for Peter? Mrs. Rita wiped her tears with a tissue. He treated him like a son. I saw them every day. Mr. Robert took him to school in the mornings, bought him school supplies, cut his hair, taught him things. One day, I saw Peter fall on the street and scrape his knee. Mr. Robert knelt down, and believe me, at his age, kneeling hurts. And he cleaned the wound with such care as if it were the most important thing in the world. That is not something someone who just wants something from the child does. That is what someone who loves does. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Rita. She stood up and looked at me before leaving. Her eyes said, we did it. Then came Michael, my lifelong friend. He sat down with the confidence he always had. Mr. Michael Smith, how long have you known Robert? 50 years, Your Honor. We worked together in the blacksmith shop for 30 years. And can you speak about his mental state? Michael smiled. Mr. Robert is the most lucid man I know. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has an elephant's memory. He remembers things that I have already forgotten. And his son says he's confused. But the only confused person here is Ethan. Confused about what it means to be family. The judge raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean that Robert raised that boy alone, paid for everything, gave him everything. And now Ethan repays him with betrayal because he is afraid of losing money. But Mr. Robert is not raising Peter for money. He is raising him for love. And love cannot be falsified in a document, Your Honor. Michael stood up. That is all I have to say. He returned to sit next to me. He put a hand on my shoulder. Other witnesses followed. Mr. John, Mrs. Eliana, Mr. Otis. Patricia Munoz, the social worker, also testified. I have visited many homes in my career. I have seen everything. And I can say with total certainty that Mr. Roberts' house is a home. Not just a house, a home. There is love, there is care. There is space for Peter to grow. And after investigating the family history, I am convinced that Peter is exactly where he needs to be. The judge listened to everything in silence. She took notes. From time to time, she looked at Peter, who was sitting next to Patricia. Then she looked at me. And then she looked at Ethan. I didn't know what she was thinking. Her face showed nothing. When all the testimonies were finished, the judge said, Mr. Robert Baker, please stand. I stood up. My legs were shaking. I want you to answer something with complete honesty. Yes, Your Honor. Why do you want this responsibility at your age? I took a deep breath. It was the question everyone had asked me. The question I had asked myself 100 times. Your Honor, I am 78 years old. My wife died 6 months ago. My children have their own lives. When she died, I was left alone in that big house. And every day, I wondered why I should get up, why I was still alive. I had no answer. I paused, until I found Peter. And that boy gave me my life back. He gave me a reason to get up, to cook, to clean the house, to go out into the street. He made me feel like I was still good for something, that I could still care for someone, that I could still be important to someone. I looked at Peter. He was looking at me with shiny eyes. And then I discovered we were family, that my sister, who left home 60 years ago and I never saw again, had asked me in a letter to care for her family. And I couldn't keep that promise when she was alive. But I can keep it now. The judge stared at me. And are you not worried that in a few years you will no longer be able to care for him? Of course I am worried, Your Honor. But life doesn't come with guarantees. I could live 10 more years, or I could die tomorrow. Peter might need me for 5 years, or he might need me until he is an adult. I don't know. What I do know is that he needs me now. And I am here, alive, willing to care for him, with a house, with love, and I'm not going to let my age be an excuse to abandon him. The judge nodded. Anything else you wish to add? I looked at Ethan. He was looking at me with that cold face I no longer recognized. Yes, Your Honor. I want to say that real family doesn't abandon. Real family doesn't betray. And real family doesn't put money before love. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. But I know that Peter is going to grow up knowing he had someone who loved him with all their heart. And that is more than a lot of children have. I sat down. The room was silent. The judge wrote something down. Then she looked at Ethan. Mr. Ethan Baker, do you wish to add anything? Ethan stood up. Your Honor, I just want what is best for my father. The judge interrupted him. Do you, really? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you want what is best for you. You reported your own father to Child Protective Services. You presented false documents. You tried to discredit him in this courtroom. And all for what? To prevent him from caring for a child who is his family. It does not appear to me that you are acting out of love, Mr. Baker. It appears to me that you are acting out of self-interest. Ethan clenched his lips. Your Honor, with all due respect. No, sir. There is no respect in what you did, and this court will not reward that behavior. Ethan sat down. His face was red. I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It was sadness. Sadness for my son, for what he had become. The judge gathered all her papers. Very well. I will take a recess for 15 minutes. When I return, I will issue my ruling. She stood up and left through the side door. We all stayed in silence. Arnold looked at me. You did well. I couldn't speak. Peter approached with Patricia. Mr. Robert, do you think I'll be able to come back? I grabbed his hand. Yes, my son, I am sure. But inside I wasn't sure of anything. Michael gave me water. Drink, old man. Breathe. Mrs. Rita was praying softly. The 15 minutes felt like hours. Finally, the door opened. The judge walked in. We all stood up. Sit down. We sat down. She opened a folder. I have made my decision. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought my chest would explode. The judge looked at me. Then she looked at Peter. Then at Ethan. And finally, she spoke. This has been one of the most complex and emotional cases I have had to resolve in my career. On one hand, we have valid arguments about the age of the applicant. On the other hand, we have compelling evidence that Mr. Robert Baker has demonstrated love, responsibility, and commitment toward Peter. She paused. We also have scientific proof that they are family. We have a letter from Rose Baker expressing her will for her brother to care for her descendant. That has a legal and emotional weight that I cannot ignore. My breathing quickened. Furthermore, I have heard from the minor, and Peter has been very clear in his desire to live with Mr. Robert. And although he is a minor, his opinion matters. The judge closed the folder. For all the reasons stated above, this court resolves. Permanent legal guardianship of the minor Peter Baker is granted to Mr. Robert Baker Ledesma. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The guardianship is effective immediately. Peter can come home today. The room erupted. Mrs. Rita screamed with happiness. Michael hugged me so hard, he almost suffocated me. Arnold raised his fist. We won! Peter ran toward me. I grabbed him. I lifted him up even though my arms ached. I hugged him with all my strength. We're going home, my son. We're going home. He was crying on my shoulder. I love you, Mr. Robert. I love you too, son, with all my soul. I looked toward where Ethan was. He was putting his things away in his briefcase. He didn't look at me. He stood up and walked toward the exit. He passed right by us without saying anything, without looking at me, without looking at Peter, and walked out of the courtroom, perhaps forever. The judge banged her gavel. Congratulations, Mr. Robert. Take good care of that boy. I will care for him with my life, Your Honor. She smiled. For the first time during the whole hearing, she smiled. And I knew that everything had been worth it. Every tear, every humiliation, every fight. Everything had been worth it for this moment. For holding Peter in my arms. For taking him home where he always should have been. 2 months have passed since that day. 2 months since the judge issued the ruling. 2 months since Peter came home. And now I'm here, sitting in my backyard, watching Peter file a piece of iron on the anvil I set up for him. It's Saturday morning. It's 10 o'clock. The sun is bright, but there is a cool breeze. Peter is wearing my safety glasses, which are too big for him. He has gloves I bought him at the hardware store. And he has a look of concentration on his face that reminds me of myself when I was his age. Is this right, Mr. Robert? I go closer. I check the piece of iron. He's filing the corners to make a lock. Very good, son. But you have to file in one direction only. Don't go back and forth because it will wear down unevenly. He nods. He starts filing again, this time in one direction only. I sit in my usual chair, the one under the orange tree, and I watch him. And I think, this is happiness. Peter goes to school Monday through Friday. He leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning. I wake him up at 7. I make him mint tea, toast with avocado or butter, depending on what he asks for. Sometimes scrambled eggs. We eat breakfast together in the kitchen. We talk about everything, his homework, his friends, what he is going to learn that day. We have a math test today, he told me yesterday. Did you study? Yes, but division is hard for me. We sat down after breakfast and reviewed. I explained it with apples. If you have 12 apples and you divide them among 3 people, how many does each person get? He thought. 4. Exactly. That's division. Peter smiled. It's easier that way. Now he understands better, and I feel useful. After school, he comes back at 3. We have lunch. He does his homework. And on weekends, we learn blacksmithing. It's our routine, and I like it. I like having a routine again. 3 weeks ago, Mary came to visit us. She arrived on a Sunday afternoon with her husband and her 2 children. She knocked on the door. I opened it. Hi, Dad. She looked uncomfortable. Hi, Mary. She stood in the doorway. Can I come in? Of course. They walked in. Peter was in the living room watching television. When he saw Mary, he became serious. She sat down on the couch. Peter, I'm Mary. Mr. Robert's daughter, your great-aunt. Peter looked at her without saying anything. Mary looked down. I came to apologize to you, and to apologize to my dad. I didn't support you when I should have. I let Ethan hurt you both, and that was wrong. I sat down next to Peter. Mary, I appreciate you coming. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Dad, forgive me. I thought Ethan was right, that you were confused, but I was wrong. I put a hand on her shoulder. It's in the past, daughter. She cried. Her children, my grandchildren, approached Peter shyly. Do you want to play? Peter looked and nodded. They went out to the backyard. Ethan hasn't come back. I haven't seen him since the day of the hearing. He hasn't called me. He hasn't come to the house. It's as if I died to him, or as if he died to me. Sometimes I think about him. I wonder if he is okay, if he regrets it, if he thinks about me. But then I remember everything he did. And the pain is so great that I prefer not to think about it. Michael tells me, old man, give him time. Maybe someday he'll come back. Mrs. Rita says, some children don't understand until it's too late. I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is that I'm not going to chase him. I'm not going to beg him to come back. If he ever wants to talk, I'll be here. But I'm not going to let his betrayal make me bitter, because I have Peter. And Peter is enough. He is more than enough. Last night, Peter and I were having dinner. I made chicken stew. He loves it. We ate in silence for a while. Then he asked me, "Mr. Robert, what if you had never found me?" I put down my spoon. "Why do you ask that, son?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Sometimes I think I was very lucky. What if you had just walked past that day on the bridge? What if you hadn't woken me up?" I looked at him. "Peter, I believe things happen for a reason. I walked across that bridge because I was supposed to. I found you because I was supposed to find you. And even if we didn't know we were family, I would still have cared for you. Because that's what good people do. They take care of those who need it." Peter nodded. "Do you think my grandmother Rose brought us together from heaven?" I smiled. "Yes, son, I think so." He smiled too, and we continued eating dinner. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found Peter, if I had taken another route that day, if I had walked past him. I would probably be alone in this big house, eating alone, sleeping alone, living half a life, waiting for my time to run out. But I found Peter. And Peter saved me as much as I saved him. He gave me back my desire to live. He gave me back joy. He gave me back a reason to get up every morning. And even though people sometimes look at me strangely on the street, even though some think that a 78-year-old man shouldn't be raising a child, I know the truth. I know this is right. I know Peter is where he needs to be, and I know that I am also where I need to be. The other day we went to the cemetery to visit my wife. And for the first time we also visited Rose. Her grave is in another section, but I got the location. We brought flowers. Peter placed the flowers on Rose's grave. "Hello, Grandma," he said. "It's me, Peter, your grandson. I'm doing well. I'm living with your brother Robert, just like you wanted." He was silent for a moment. I put a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for asking him to care for me. He is the best person in the world." I felt my throat close up. Then we went to my wife's grave. "My love," I said to her, "I want you to meet Peter. He's the grandson we never had. I know you would have loved him." Peter spoke to her too. "Hello, ma'am. I know you are gone, but I want you to know that I'm going to take care of Mr. Robert. I'm not going to leave him alone." We left the cemetery with a full heart, full of love, full of peace. Life is not easy. My knees still hurt. I still get tired quickly. There are still days when I get up and my body feels heavy. But now I have a reason to get up. I have Peter, and he needs me. He needs me to make him breakfast, to check his homework, to take him to the doctor when he gets sick, to teach him blacksmithing on the weekends, to tell him stories before bed. And I need him to need me, because that keeps me alive, that keeps me strong, that gives me purpose. People say, "Mr. Robert, you are so good for taking care of that boy." But I tell them, no, he is taking care of me, because it's true. Peter takes care of me. He reminds me to take my pills. He helps me with groceries. He asks me if I'm okay when he sees me quiet. We take care of each other. And that is what family means. I thought my life was already over, that after burying my wife, all I had left was to wait for my turn, that there was nothing more for me. But I was wrong. Life gave me a second chance. It gave me Peter. It gave me the possibility of being important to someone again, of being needed, of being loved. And although I don't know how many years I have left, I know that every day I spend with Peter is a gift I will not waste. I will be here for him. I will teach him everything I know. I will give him all the love I have. And when my time comes, I will leave knowing that I did something good, that I saved a child, that I gave him a home, that I gave him a family, and that is more than many can say at the end of their lives. Peter yells at me from the backyard. "Mr. Robert, I finished the lock. Come and see." I stand up slowly. I walk toward the backyard. He shows me the lock. He made it with his own hands. It's a little crooked, but it's beautiful. "It's perfect, son." He smiles proudly. "Can I paint it?" "Of course. Choose whatever color you want." He runs inside to look for the paint. I stay there under the sun, feeling the breeze. And I think about everything that happened. How I found Peter, how I fought for him, how I almost lost him, and how we finally won. We won together because we are family, not because of court papers, not because of DNA, but because we chose each other. I chose him, he chose me. And that is what makes a true family. Not blood, not last names, but love. The love you choose to give every day. The love that makes you get up at 7 in the morning to make mint tea. The love that makes you fight against everything and everyone. That love. And you who have listened to me this far, let me ask you something. Did you ever feel that your life no longer had meaning? That there was nothing left? I felt it too. But I learned that as long as you have life, there is always time for a second chance. There is always time to love. No matter your age, no matter what others say. If you have love to give, give it. If you see someone who needs help, help them. Because in the end, all that matters is what you did with the time you had. And I decided to use my time caring for Peter. And it was the best decision of my life. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something, leave a comment down here. Tell me how it made you feel. Tell me if you also had a second chance. And subscribe to hear more true stories that will touch your soul. Give it a thumbs up if you believe that love has no age limit. I'll see you in the next story. And remember, it is never too late to start over.